Wow, I know I've said this like 3 times already, but we might be cooked. Quick disclaimer before this video starts. This video is
Not meant to slander or defame or paint an incorrect picture of anyone depicted or talked about in this video. Also, don't harass anyone I mention in this video. I'm simply trying to tell you the most accurate story I can of what actually happened here. I'm just a messenger. Don't shoot me if you did something that gets the community on your ass, okay? Okay, let's begin.
So, I think the fact that we're here once again for the 4th time means something pretty substantial happened. And you'd be very correct. Well, actually, multiple things happened. So let's get into it. So let me talk about our first situation because it'll give you the details necessary for the second one. Also, it's just insane what happened here. Okay, so remember this guy, Distant? So basically, he started trash talking DCJ in a random public lobby about how he doesn't fix bugs, he's a lazy scripter, or whatever. Which is fine. I mean, you have the right to talk about whatever in a public lobby. I mean, it wasn't nice, but regardless. Well, anyway, DCJ somehow got a hold of these chat logs and confronted Distant about it. Then, they had this very long and heated conversation about how DCJ should be fixing bugs, despite them not being calls from his scripting, how the whitelist is broken, which if you didn't know, the whitelist is basically a hard-coded list in the game of who gets Ronaldo or whatever other dev spec, and just a bunch of arguing of why the game is a buggy and sloppy mess. Now, about the whitelist getting deleted, Longa said himself that they had a lot of issues with scripters leaving backdoor scripts in the game, and when it was backdoored, the whitelist likely got deleted within all the chaos. But the bottom line is, nobody has dev specs currently. Anyway, Distant and DCJ kept going back and forth about how the game was buggy, and DCJ wasn't fixing the bugs right, like whatever. And DCJ said that none of the bugs were his fault, and he wasn't hired to fix bugs. He was mainly hired for protecting backdoors, and overall supervising the script, and I think some other stuff too. Now, he should have said to Distant that there is a scripter working on those same bugs right now. Because he didn't though, this altercation lasted a lot longer than it needed to, because it sounded like he was just being lazy, when in reality, it actually, well, wasn't his job. Another thing, Distant had admin perms at the time, well, not studio access, but he could like give out MVPs and styles and stuff, outside of dev specs of course, but still pretty substantial permissions. So he said this for some reason, and I say for some reason because he stated later that he was joking and didn't actually give anything out. And here's where the spiral begins. So somehow Kin gets a hold of this message, and then states in what I presume to be an admin channel, Distant just gave out quote-unquote like a million SSJ4s, which is the Roblox MVP by the way. Now, as any normal person would do, combined with all this drama, DCJ banned Distant from the server on the spot. It was mainly though due to all the drama he's caused, and most of the old and new dev team not liking him. So when Kid said like a million, Longa and many of the other developers thought he literally meant a million. However, Kin actually just meant it as an expression. Furthermore, there's no actual proof of Distant giving out SSJ4s besides this message. I think you know where I'm going with this. Distant likely didn't give out any SSJ4s, and if he did, he probably only gave out a few. So this little miscommunication once again made this whole situation a whole lot worse. However, Distant still likely won't get unbanned after this, because whenever people try to work things out with Distant, he usually gets annoyed and leaves. And overall, he's just done a lot of damage through this drama and Das's drama. And due to a lot of group chats being made discussing things with Distant, and even more so Longa and DCJ could relay this information to me, a lot of developers, specifically DCJ, spent time getting this resolved, which removed available time developing. Also, to wrap up this initial drama, I think they were still discussing payment for past animations, among other things. So this drama was just overall really messy, and a lot of errors were made on both sides, which exacerbated the issue immensely. But our next story is where it gets really bad. If you missed it, earlier today, Ratio, a manager at Ball Studios, posted this very ominous message and announcements. Now, a couple of thoughts roamed through my mind when I saw this. Firstly, what were they talking about with the old developers' activity levels being far below par? The old developers had a much better update schedule than Ball Studios currently has, so what's that about? And the more important question I had was, who got fired then? And the answer to that would be DCJ himself. Oh, and also General got locked down again for like the 6th time this week, no surprise there. So firstly, this is just insane in my opinion. Firstly, as the lead developer and the guy who handles backdoor stuff and just general upkeep on scripts, he's a very valuable and important asset to the old and new developer team. DCJ stated how for like a month he worked around 18 hours a day scripting, and the other developers like Longa can vouch for this. He was an extremely valuable scripter to the team, and as anyone would for working that many hours for like a month, he burnt out a little and slowed down progress. However, he did make it up in other work, like dealing with the Distant drama, getting the situation cleared up with other admins, and relaying this information to me and other content creators. But clearly, that wasn't enough for Ball Studios. Well, to be more specific, it wasn't enough for Ball Studios managers. To clarify, DCJ himself stated that Brandon actually wanted DCJ to stay on the team. However, the managers kept pushing for his removal, and eventually Brandon just caved because he had better things to worry about. So it was more the manager team, specifically Ratio himself, that fired DCJ as opposed to Brandon himself, or an old manager like Remy who was aware of this drama and knew DCJ's value. So, and this part is only my best guess, it was likely the new Ball Studios managers like Ratio and Salt who fired him. Oh, and before I forget, DCJ didn't get any notice that he wasn't working hard enough before getting fired. He just immediately got fired, no inclination or warning or anything. Also, I just want to comment on how insane it is to get fired from your job by a dude with a Patrick Bateman smoking profile picture. Like, I'd actually be so pissed off. DCJ was very level-headed about the whole thing though, so props to him. Also, it's important for y'all to know that DCJ and Longa were not on contracts, so that's not why they got fired. Longa himself said that they declined the contracts, but they had made a temporary pact to work on just this update. So, although the contract said that if you had a week of inactivity, you could be fired without notice, 1, this refers to full activity, not slowed activity like DCJ's case, and 2, they weren't fully on these contracts and likely didn't need to fully adhere to these rules. So overall, I believe that this firing of DCJ was completely unfair and either a deliberate attempt by Ball Studios to gut the old dev team, because as DCJ said himself, most of the new scripters just care about it for the money, or that Ball Studios managers just had it out for DCJ. Now, the issue with DCJ getting fired is that he was a huge pillar for not only the community's hope, but also that Longa and Left Right and the other developers stayed in the project because he was there. Now, it's likely Longa will leave the project too, and all the other ones in this screenshot are likely leaving according to DCJ, and even Left Right has a good chance of dipping too. If DCJ is right and all these developers leave, and Left Right leaves, then the game will fully be under Ball Studios employees. There will not be a single trace of the original developer team left. And I don't think I need to explain to y'all why that's bad. Now, was this what Ball Studios wanted from the start? I really have no clue. But either way, this situation was completely unjust. Sure, I get the developers need to do their work, but not only did he get fired with zero notice, he was doing other important work alongside that. And even if he wasn't, his previous work and expertise on the game made him more than valuable enough to keep on the team anyways. And another thing I need to discuss is how Ratio stated how the codebase itself is a huge challenge, implying that the code is buggy or sloppy or whatever. And although I'm not a scripter myself, so although I can't say positively, I'm pretty sure that this is more on Ball Studios' end, not on the old developer team's inadequacies. Multiple old developers and scripters in general have stated that working with these Ball Studios scripters on previous projects sucks and that their code is buggy, sloppy, and hard to work with. And you also want to know what makes me think that? Longa himself said that Kunigami was made by new developers, specifically this guy named Tay. They apparently wanted to use the update as training for him, which, firstly, making a developer do his first training as the most make-or-break update of the game was a horrendous idea. I mean, it probably wasn't even Tay's fault that Kunigami was that flawed, it was his first time making a style. And as everyone can see, Kunigami is a buggy, broken mess right now that took way too long to make. So coming at the old dev team for issues you caused is a little bold in my opinion. And the last thing I'd like to mention is how they dealt with the old staff team at the start of the studio transition. I'll keep their identity under wraps, but apparently when Ball Studios bought Azure Latch, they literally went through like a who do we keep on the team and who do we fire, because apparently keeping just the old team wasn't good enough. Like, that's insane, bro. And the developers were so sad, they literally did like a Mexican cartel execution on like half the staff members. Mercy got removed from this, Igor77 got removed, and then Avalon just took his own leave from the whole situation. Absolutely diabolical, man. So, what do you think about this whole situation? Tell me in the comments. If you enjoyed, please subscribe as it really helps me out. I still need that sweet content creator role after all. But with that, I hope you enjoyed, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.